Welcome to the QB Chronicles, an SMU football podcast with Garrett Gilbert and Kyle Padron. Join former SMU quarterbacks Garrett and Kyle as they break down each week's game, offering insights from their own experiences on the field. In addition to game analysis, we'll also bring you special episodes featuring interviews with past and present SMU players, sharing their stories and perspectives. Whether you're a diehard Mustang fan or just love football, this podcast is your go-to source for all things SMU football. Pony up!
Welcome back to the QB Chronicles. I'm Kyle Padron, joined by 2009 Gatorade National Player of the Year, Garrett Gilbert.
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Not much, man. I am doing great.
I like the hat there.
Thanks.
Pony Access.
Yeah. It's a gentleman named Will Howard gave it to my boss, John Altschuler, and John passed it over to me. So
Will's a good guy.
Repping
Nice.
it, yeah.
Very nice. How was oh, beautiful. How was the Hilltop last night? I unfortunately was sitting on my back patio watching the game, but did not get to attend. So tell me about the atmosphere. I heard it was great from multiple people. The picture you sent me looked phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, the picture didn't even do it justice either, which iPhones can't capture what it's like to be there in the moment and in that arena, in that setting. But even from the Boulevard was crowded, very similar to Florida State. I know you were there at that game. And, just the buzz. We've talked about it all year long, but the Boulevard was crazy. There were tents everywhere, people everywhere. Drinks were certainly flowing. Being homecoming week, it was fun. Saw a bunch of teammates. Brett Hannis, Cameron Rogers, Hayden Greenbauer, Cole Lofton.
Mr. Hannis, that was good to see. I was sad I missed getting to see him.
Yeah, I bailed on Barley House after the game. I had to get back to Fort Worth, but
maybe it's unfortunate, but maybe a smart move.
Yeah, I'm happy with my decision. Made it to early service this morning, and everybody's happy on the west side. So
there you go.
Saw Chris Butler, who I haven't seen in a long time. Not sure if you ever met Chris. I think he might have been gone by the time you got there, but just got a joy to see a bunch of former teammates. The 1983 Cotton Bowl champs beat Pitt 7-3. Dan Marino's team. They were honored and celebrated throughout the day and on the field as well. And just a bunch of people and a great time to be an SMU Mustang. We, on the field, the product was fantastic. Came out flying. Offense scores on the first drive, scores quickly. And ultimately leads to a big win, 48-25. Handing Pitt their first loss of the season, and ultimately, at the end of the night, we're in the driver's seat within the ACC conference.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was all over the board a dominant performance. I was very impressed with, from top to bottom. I thought we played really well. I thought our best players played well. Yep. They stepped up, from the opening drive. And then our defense, I thought we dominated the line of scrimmage, and I thought that was the big deal. That Pitt, there was a lot of talk about, and I heard Rhett talking in post game about Pitt's defensive front and how good they were versus the run. Is it the Land Sharks? Is that what yeah. And we did some creative stuff within the run game to create space for our best player. And, that was great. And then on the defensive
so freaking good, man.
Yeah, he's a football player.
Yeah.
It's really fun to watch him because he does everything well. I thought I could get going talking about him, but he runs the ball well. He shows up in pass protection, and then he had 2 catches that and I think he had more than 2 catches. I don't have the stats in front of me, but He had 2 catches that were like, obviously he moved from receiver, but you can just tell he feels really natural catching the ball. The screen pass where Kevin kind of double clutched it and then, flipped it out to him, and he reached way out in front of his body to catch it and kind of just plucked it out of the air. And then his touchdown showed great, poise and feet by the sideline. And just a football player. Anyway, I was impressed by our defense. We got the 2 turnovers, but we've talked a little bit about the fact that they've kind of needed turnovers to survive in some cases, and that wasn't the case last night. They dominated the game and got the turnovers, and so they took away what Pitt did well. There were very few issues on the defensive side of the ball. We stopped the run very well and didn't give up a ton of big passes, and so and we were good on third down. I mean, it was a very dominant performance, and I was impressed.
Yeah, just my notes after the game, I thought, effort, energy, there was a certain confidence on defense from last week from, defense really winning that ball game for us and carrying it over this week. And I know we touched on it last week, how there's probably going to be, you mentioned, I think you said there's going to be echoes in the team meeting room just from that performance, really, on the offensive side of the ball more than anything. But the response from the team as a whole in all three phases, I thought we dominated. To your point, we're the more physical team, more aggressive team, and taking shots where they were warranted. But I thought all night we were just a better football team, and we proved that on the scoreboard. But I think Pitt left probably a little disheartened coming to Dallas, thinking they have a chance to go compete for a conference championship, and they still do to an extent. But, I feel like that's probably a demoralizing defeat for guys up at Pitt to come to town and just get absolutely blown out by a team that – really struggled last week at Duke, and there were a lot of question marks. And there's been a few weeks where there's, some question marks around our program. And for our guys to respond the way that they did was just an awesome sight. And, we had 35,000 people there, second consecutive sellout, which hadn't been done. I think Billy was saying, I have to go back and find our text, but that's the first time it's happened in quite a long time.
Yeah.
Just an incredible night. We'll break into, what the offense did, Kevin's performance. Burchard had another incredible night. He had 23 carries, 161 yards, 3 total touchdowns, 2 on the ground, 1 receiving touchdown. And then Kevin, another, a bounce back game for him after a tough week last week. But pretty efficient, 17 of 25, 306 in the air and 2 touchdowns. And again, got back to what we saw the previous 3 or 4 weeks prior to Duke. Just efficient, not doing anything out of the ordinary, but stepping up and making big throws at the right times and delivering the football in the right spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And he made the plays. He really made plays without running the ball. He was not a factor in the running game, and I don't think that was based on there was some question marks and cloudiness on his injury status leading into the game, but he looked fine. He just he didn't have to be a runner with the football last night, and he handled most of the game from the pocket and did a great job with it.
Yeah, and even when he was pressured, I mean, we'll get into the Padron shot, kind of foreshadowing of that, but he had some pressure in the face and stood in the pocket and delivered some throws. Even on, different platforms, falling back, rolling out and creating outside the pocket to Burchard on his touchdown, and just made, critical plays, both within the pocket and outside the pocket. But I thought he played a really great game. And the stat that I'm most excited about coming off of that Duke game is we had 0 turnovers, which, again, you win the turnover battle. I know Duke won it last week and we snuck out with the game, victory there, but most often, I can't remember any games that I threw 2 or 3 interceptions that we won. But to sneak that one out and then come out and, obviously there was an emphasis on the turnovers and keeping the ball, as a ball carrier high and tight, not putting it on the ground, but also in the air. Kevin, keeping it out of harm's way and doing his job and getting the ball to playmakers without forcing the football.
Yeah, and being aggressive but smart, I thought was a big deal for Kevin. And I mean, this could be me just making something up, but I thought I watched a few times the ball carriers consciously go with 2 hands in traffic. Burchard a few times go with 2 hands in traffic, and the truth of the matter is, there's other teams that we're playing. They're sitting in meetings all week and they're saying, okay, guys, these guys fumble the football. These guys fumble the football. These guys fumble the football. And that's all the defensive players are thinking about. So you have to play a few games to kind of get rid of that stigma, play a few clean games. And I thought this was a really good step in the right direction. I was looking at some notes from last week to compare, and you talked about cleaning things up. And I thought that was number one, the biggest thing. There was a fumble on the flea flicker, which I forgot about. I had to go back and find the play. That's something that, just to kind of dive into the scheme of it a little bit, LJ, if and when he gets the handoff, what you're coached to do on the flea flicker is if there's any pressure up the middle or anything, you just don't flip it. You just eat the 1 yard loss and move on to the next down. And so that's easily fixable. Certainly avoided disaster there. Great job getting back on it. And then the other thing that I thought was really good was we cleaned up the penalties. You know, I went on a little bit of a rant last week on the, on the unsportsmanlikes and the unnecessary roughnesses. And there was one late on a kickoff return with an offensive lineman just being overzealous, but nothing, it was a much cleaner game in between the whistles. And, I thought that was really good.
Couldn't agree more. Not want to make sure we address it. AJ Davis, there's a scary moment during the game. From what I know, and I hear he was on the sideline after the game. That's positive. Not certain about, playing in upcoming weeks, but I think everything is okay. Certainly a scary moment on the field with the ambulance and the team huddled around him, but glad to hear he was back on the sideline after the game, post game, and with his teammates. But certainly scary for his family and for the guys. Extremely happy to hear he's doing well. And hopefully, news continues to come out in that same way. But and then defensively, touched on, we were able to force a couple turnovers, and just thought, they keep doing their job and forcing turnovers. They didn't rely on the turnovers like you mentioned, but I just love the effort that they play with. Our linebackers are always flying around. Jonathan McGill came up with a huge interception. And just, I hope we continue to build off that momentum and they keep building confidence every single week. And which I think that they will. This was a good, pretty good Pittsburgh offense that they contained pretty much all night. They had some late scores, but overall dominating on the defensive side of the ball as well.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think the box score is a little misleading. I think we were pretty close in terms of yards, 463 to 457 or something like that. But I did a little chicken scratch math. I'm not going to go through and break it down into passing and rushing because I'm not that smart. But basically 188 of those yards that they had were in the fourth quarter after the game was 41-11. And, obviously, sure, there's some good stuff to coach off of, and you'd love for some of the backups to go in there and make stops. Quick shout out to Nate Yarnell, Pitt's backup quarterback. He's a Lake Travis kid. We've been talking a lot about South Lake kids this year. About time we talked about someone from Lake Travis. Unfortunately, plays for the other team. There's
just not quite as many guys out of Lake Travis.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's fair. But we talked. I know we talk a lot about the offense, but I think again, and I mentioned this earlier, our best players played well, and that held true on the defensive side of the ball. Isaiah Nwokobia, Kobe Wilson, two of our leading tacklers on the season, they showed up, had 10-ish tackles each, and then Jonathan McGill, who's been all over the field, great senior leader for us, makes a pick in the end zone, which turns immediately into an 80-yard touchdown the other way. Of course. The game felt out of hand by that point, but it's nice to put that nail in the coffin. And, I think that was fun to see, to get, just to get one more there. And especially to get, our boy Hibner a tutty, after all the talk about RJ going down.
Yep. No, I was going to make the same point. The next man up mentality, Hibner, he's stepping right in, and I think he had, pull up his stats again real quick, but stepping into a role where we weren't certain who was going to step up, and you made that comment maybe by committee, but he had 108 yards and a touchdown, obviously the 80-yard touchdown you just mentioned, but seeing guys step up when guys in front of them go down, that's a crucial part of what makes teams great. Is when you get your opportunity, you come in. We've seen it with Kevin, now we're seeing it with Hibner, and hopefully continue to see that as the season progresses here.
Yep, no doubt. And just looking at the box score again, I've made this point numerous times, but our ability to spread the ball out on the offensive side of the ball just makes it hard for defenses to it makes it hard for defenses to pick a guy. Jake Bailey comes out as a scratch on Saturday morning. He's not able to go. Well, who's going to step up? Keyshawn Smith on the first drive makes a great catch and then makes another great catch late in the game. Moochie Dixon had some great plays, especially especially the long third down conversion after LJ got the touchdown called back. Roderick Daniels made some great plays. I thought his flip into the end zone was outstanding.
It's an incredible athlete.
And then, of course, Hibner, making 3 catches and turning them into one huge third down conversion and then a big touchdown. So we continue this by committee approach. Hopefully Jake gets back soon and just puts one more piece in the puzzle. He's been very reliable all year long. But keep spreading the ball out. And then, hopefully, obviously, we can continue to run the ball like we have all year long.
Yeah. You mentioned Roderick's touchdown. I mean, just an incredible feat of athletic ability. But I thought Rhett did a good job. He mentioned the flea flicker didn't work out this time, but I like the aggressive nature of the play call. And then the speed option with the flip reverse to Roderick. And obviously he goes and makes a great play out of it. Should have been probably tackled for a loss, but, thankfully he's the better athlete in that one-on-one scenario and gets in the end zone. But love the creative mind and creative play calling by the coaching staff and Rhett. But it also puts things on film, and you mentioned this maybe a week or two ago, but putting things on film that defensive constantly have to prepare for, and it takes away time from really the bread and butter. But they've got to prepare for a flea flicker, and now they've got a speed option reverse, and all these different types of concepts they got to prepare for. And I think it just gets harder and harder to try and figure out what this offense is going to look like week to week and what new wrinkles they're going to bring in every Saturday. And excited to see. Hopefully more creativity to come. I suspect Rhett's got some more things up his sleeve, and we'll see that unfold over the next few weeks and after the bye week especially.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome time for a bye week for the team. There was a couple guys that went out with injuries. I was almost begging Rhett to take Burchard out, and then he went and ran for another touchdown. But there was one point where it looked like he might have got a little dinged up, but he came back in the game, fortunately. And so, I think this is a great time for a bye week and to get geared up for the last 3. So I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited about having a week off for the guys and, what things look like going into November, because things are looking up for the number 13 Mustangs.
That's big time right there. And there's an argument on, teams that are in front of us too, but we've just got to do our job going forward, and, we control our own destiny. We're in the driver's seat to play in a conference championship game in our first year in the ACC, sitting up top with Miami's also 5-0. They're now the number 4 team in the country. And we just got to go do our job. I know we've talked about 1-0 seasons week to week and going and trying to be 1-0 every week. And a lot of things and everything's out in front of us still, and a lot to play for as we get into big time November football. Who is your player of the game? I have a guess.
Do you think you might know?
I think I have an idea.
I have a little crush on number 1. I think he's going to be our player of the game again. No disrespect to Kevin. He played great. I think he's just done an outstanding job just distributing the football and doing the right thing. But number 1 is just a difference maker when he has the ball in his hands. We talked about the fumble on the flea flicker, little things that don't necessarily show up. The touchdown catch is great, toe tapping on the sideline. The screen pass that, first of all, could have been a disaster, and then he makes a great catch. Kevin makes a great play to get it to him. He makes a great catch, and then we turn it into an 8-yard gain. And turning those things into 2nd and 2s are huge. And then the fumble on the flea flicker. So we got 2nd and 25, and then all of a sudden Burchard breaks out a 20-yard run with ease and gets us back into a 3rd and manageable that gets us a touchdown before the half, or at least a field goal. But it's those types of plays are sure they're some of those things are great on the stat line, but they're just the mark of a good football player to me, and he's fun to watch. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see where the opportunity that he gets at the next level.
Yeah, 100%. Before he broke his big run, we were sitting in the Weber, and some guy was talking to me about, guys on offense who I really like, and, talked about a handful of guys, but Burchard, I was just saying he's a game breaker, and then he breaks that, massive touchdown run. Yeah. And
if you guys go back and watch that one, sorry to cut you off, but I could gush. If you guys go back and watch that one during the course of this week, watch the way that he breaks through the middle, and then he doesn't just run away from the safety. He runs at the safety and kind of gives him a little bit of a slight hesitation. And that's just how that's textbook how you run the football. And that was what got him the last little bit, because he did have to sort of break a leg, break a diving tackle at about the 7-yard line. But he understands how to run the football, and
No, it's vision. It's the single cut. He sees it on the right. It's not there. Sticks his foot in the ground, breaks out left, attacks the safety, gives him that hesitation you mentioned, and he's just a fun ball player to watch, man. I've got a crush with you. I might go buy myself a jersey.
We got Mitch's shirts. Bring home the Doak.
I know. I've got to make sure we both get those before maybe our next episode, and hopefully distribute that out.
Give me a Padron shot of the game.
There were a few, but I've got to give it to Keyshawn Smith. Kevin made a great throw, but I mean, Keyshawn, he's just stacking up great plays and great tape himself. But Kevin, this is one of the throws I was talking about earlier, where he gets some pressure in his face. He's got a zone dog coming at him. They drop into a one high, and he's got 6 guys rushing, 6 guys protecting, but pocket's kind of collapsing on him. He's throwing off his back foot, lays it out. He, identifies the one-on-one that you mentioned, a few weeks ago too, or it might have been last week, find those one-on-one matchups, but he sees it, identifies the pressure, gets the ball out. Then Keyshawn makes an outstanding one-handed catch, but picks up 43 yards. And then the very next play, Brashard gets his 3rd touchdown, 18-yard rush. But just big plays set up, even bigger plays and scoring opportunities. But Padron shot of the game is Kevin Jennings, Keyshawn Smith, 43 yards. Rhett continues to dial up great plays, and these kids continue to go out there and execute them.
Yeah, let's keep winning those one-on-one, those 50-50 balls, so to speak. I mean, we got, those. That's we keep winning those, and I think you're seeing Keyshawn start to play with confidence.
100%.
I
just stole your 100% line, by the way. Shout out to.
I know, yeah. Like that first play of the game, or the first big pass of the game. You see a lot of receivers go up and catch that ball and just kind of go down. They're not looking to make a play with it after they catch it. Well, he comes down landing on his feet, and then breaks a tackle and goes for 30, 40 yards. I mean, that, those things, you have to be confident catching the football to make plays like that. And then the way he made that catch over his shoulder with one hand just looked even more effortless than his one-handed touchdown catch against Louisville that Preston threw him. So excited to see him continue to grow and play with more confidence. I thought you were going to go with the 3rd and 18 or 20 back shoulder to Moochie. That was my favorite throw of the game. But I'm with you. I think that's a good choice.
There are several throws that Kevin made that I was impressed with. The one outside the pocket, even the touchdown to Brashard where he toe taps, and the rule is apparently both feet in the NFL, so that's a touchdown by the NFL standards. It's not 1 foot twice, but it could be 1 foot and a shin apparently too. So,
the same foot twice.
Correct. Yeah, NFL's so dumb. Nobody knows what a catch is.
George Pickens.
But yeah, there were many throws that Kevin made throughout the night that could have been a Padron shot. I just, you mentioned Keyshawn's confidence. He's making big play after big play. He's putting some great things on tape. And that's one that stood out to me above the rest. But that throw to Moochie too was, he probably had 5 or 6 throws that could have been, good candidates for the Padron shot. But if I had a glass, I'd raise it to Jennings and Keyshawn, but I'm not doing that tonight.
Here we go.
Yeah, mine's water. I don't know what you're drinking.
Don't worry about that. Let's see. Let's take a quick little trip around college football. We had a couple big games. It was an interesting slate this weekend, and I thought the Ohio State Penn State game lived up to the hype in terms of being a great game, even though it was kind of boring. I mean, it was an entertaining game. Ohio State with a goal line stand at the end, essentially to win the game. And then they
football, right?
Yeah, that's old Big Ten football. You're exactly right. Duke had a chance to beat Miami and kind of let it slip away there at the end, and Miami ended up even covering the spread, which was crazy. I think they were losing going into the midway through the third quarter and then covered a -20 spread. South Carolina's win against Texas A&M was a dominant performance. The Aggies were riding high, and South Carolina really just shut that one down. Both of the highest-ranked Big 12 teams losing, I thought, was interesting. It puts BYU kind of in the driver's seat in the Big 12, and I think I was going to dive into, just some teams to watch, but I think we may get another episode in later this week to kind of roll through some scenarios and, some teams to watch over the course of let these playoff rankings come out, and then look at some teams to watch over the course of the next few weeks. But suffice to say, guys, we want to root for BYU to keep winning and win the Big 12. I think we want to root for Louisville, frankly, because that's a great win that we had against them on the road. And they just went into Clemson and beat them. And I think we want to root for Pitt now going forward. We want to we want to have Pitt go beat Clemson too. And just, improve those wins on our resume in the committee's eyes.
Yeah, I agree. Another, you mentioned the Big 12 teams. Tech takes down Iowa State 23-22. Another one that I saw was Minnesota, unranked, beats number 24 Illinois. Illinois is kind of struggling right now, so they'll be, I don't know where they ended in the AP, if they hit receiving votes or not, but they're
kind of knocks them out. Yeah,
they're no longer in contention. And then some games to watch for next week. We'll get to just with bye week. We'll hopefully see if we can get a guest on and but certainly break down some of these playoff scenarios, who to watch. But big games next week. Big one down in Oxford. You got number 2 Georgia going to Ole Miss. Shout out to Coach Randall Joyner. Let's go, Bo.
Yeah, Georgia opens as a 2.5-point favorite there.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, that'll be a fun one.
Number 11 Bama goes to Baton Rouge. Night game in Death Valley. Take on number 14 LSU. Be always a fun one to watch. Got
That's
some
where
friends.
game day's headed.
That will certainly be a fun game. And then one to watch too. Florida gave Georgia a pretty good scare this weekend. Last I saw was 20-20, and then Georgia sneaks away 34-20 at the end. But Florida, the Gators going to Austin to take on number 5 Texas.
Yeah, and Texas opening as a 21.5-point favorite there. I think a lot of that depends on is it Lagway, Florida's quarterback?
Yeah.
Depends on what happened with him. He got carted off, and Florida's offense had a hard time. They ran the ball well at times against Georgia, but had a hard time getting anything going once he went out. Another one I'm interested in seeing is the 21st ranked Colorado Buffaloes going to Lubbock, Texas. I think that one will be interesting. Colorado's been sneaky, playing some good football of late, gotten into 6-2. So some good games to watch as we rest and get healthy for the home stretch. And that includes all you fans too. Rest up, take a week off from the Boulevard, and get ready to go for the home stretch. We got 2 out of 3 at home to end it off, and it should be fun. I'm excited about it.
Yep. Get your rest. Show up for Boston College here in a couple weeks. Take them on the 9th. Again, everything's in front of us. We went out. We earned our spot in Charlotte to go compete for potentially a home playoff game and a bye week, which is pretty incredible. So a lot of things to look forward to. What's that?
1 week seasons, right?
Yeah, exactly. A lot to look forward to. Appreciate everybody listening. Shout out to Billy Embody with On 3, Mitch and Lindsey Brown, 1911, and the Pony fans across the DFW Metroplex and across the world as we're gathering more and more fans each week across the country, but hopefully the world as well. And we'll be back.
We got a little group chat with all my work buddies, and I keep telling them every week, turn the ponies on. There's room on the bandwagon. Keep on coming, baby.
Hop on. Jump on now, because it'll be too late in a couple years.
That's right.
Yep.
All right, KP. Have a good week, man.
You too. Talk soon. Pony up.